thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Representative Beth Van Duyne.
We've been working on this for a while.
I know, we
finally
have.
Our
oh
schedules
my gosh,
finally,
I know it. Our
finally
schedules
worked.
are crazy, and forgive me for being just a few minutes late. I guess, what was it, 1 minute late or so, but I appreciate you being here.
Of course.
Thank you so much. You're not just an exceptional leader. You're a businesswoman, and you've brought so much to your district, to North Texas. Cornell graduate, beautiful, of course, very intelligent and very capable. But I want to start off on just some of the impact that you've made most recently in North Texas. But before I get to that, you served as Irving's first female mayor.
Only female mayor?
Only.
In their history. Is that wild?
Okay, so only female mayor. You brought 30,000 jobs.
Well, I didn't. But let me say, I focused on economic development. I focused on having a business-friendly
That's right.
environment, because recognizing the fact that with opportunity brings people.
That's right.
People are looking for a way to be able to take care of their kids, to be able to buy a house, to be able to leave generational wealth.
That's exactly right.
Be able to afford vacations and, things that they want, that they need, money to be able to give out to charities that they care about. And how do you do that? Is by having an environment that, supports that. And that's exactly what we did.
But under your time serving as mayor, you brought $3 billion, at least based on everything that I've read, in new development. That's huge.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit more than that, but I think that was just for, a couple of
that's
year period.
exceptional.
Yeah.
So what lessons from your local government days have you now taken into your new role as Congresswoman?
It's wild. People ask me which I'd like better, being a mayor or being in Congress. And the fact is that as a mayor, you can get a lot more done. I mean, even if you don't have all the votes on city council, and anybody who lived in North Texas during the time that I was mayor remembers reading those headlines. I was fighting with a lot of my my council colleagues because I was really pushing forward on a very hard agenda, which is to turn that city around and to bring it up into modern times, that we were being able to compete globally. And I think when you start looking at all of the Fortune 500 companies that we were able to bring there during that time, the companies that are still coming, the growth that sparked, one of the fastest growing cities in the country, that's for a reason. You got Caterpillar, Wells Fargo. I just went for the first time. They just opened up, McKesson. I was there, for their ribbon cutting, bringing all those jobs, bringing all those dollars, bringing all those tax dollars. And it's an amazing thing. But when you are able to do that as mayor, it's much different than when you get into Congress. But what I learned, and I think I learned it my first day during freshman orientation, they have everybody come talk to you about some of the ethics issues, how to hire staff, what you should be looking for. And they sat down, they said, you need to treat being in Congress as if you are the mayor of your district. And I thought,
that's
exactly
what? Right.
I can do that. It means talking to the people that you represent, not getting lost in D.C., understanding that the only reason why you are in this position is because of the constituents.
Absolutely.
And, we focused primarily on our constituent services and our casework, which a lot of people don't even understand when they think about what a Congress member does. They just look at the votes that we take in D.C.
Yep.
And that is a far cry from our actual job. And you can tell when people say you're on vacation, when you are not voting on the floor of the House, you are hardly on vacation. When you come back here, somebody should look at my schedule just for today alone. We're coming back, we're meeting with constituents who have issues. We are going through business tours and talking to business owners and those job creators. That's what our job is. And I think if more people took that seriously and didn't get wrapped up into like the national headlines, but recognize that we each have about 750,000 people that we represent, and whether or not, literally already this morning, helping people who are going on vacation that forgot that their passports expired. Helping them, or people who are going to DC and want to know where to go. We can help you with that. Or people who are having issues with the federal government, whether or not they applied for a small business loan, they haven't heard about it, whether or not they're having issues with VA and they're not hearing back. This is our job. And I take that very, very seriously. And, my first couple weeks in office, we had staff changes.
Yep.
Because the staff that I hired in D.C. did not recognize that.
Yep. Yep.
And so they could not stay because unless you were really prioritizing our district and respecting the district, Index District 24, then you really didn't have a spot on my team. So we have got to that point very quickly that we love this district. We love North Texas, love Texas, and really respect what the state is doing. And you're seeing it. I mean, we just call it a Texas miracle. And I think so many people, so many leaders across the country could learn from our Texas folks. We're doing it right.
That's right. And they can learn from what you're doing in your district. I mean, you've created the North Texas Job Fair, if I remember correctly, in 2021 to help reconnect employees with employers throughout COVID.
This is what we were hearing during
crisis.
COVID, right?
But now it's one of the largest in the country.
It is the largest independent job fair
so
in
it's
the country.
Over 35,000 people go to this job fair. And you outgrew the original place, and now you're over where the Rangers are at home in Globe Life Stadium, which is incredible. Yes. I mean, did you ever expect it to be this big? How did it get this big? How did you do it?
We started this during the pandemic when we were going to talk to job creators, and they were dying because they said we can't get enough people hired. We don't know what to do. Yep. And then we were listening to people who, had worked and had lost their jobs during COVID,
right.
and they were desperate, to try to find work. And so we just did what was, came natural, and we put the two together, and we had, our first job fair, expecting several hundred people to come. We had several thousand people there, and every year it's gotten bigger. And as you mentioned last year, we had 35,000 people last year. Here's the kicker. We're going to have more people than that this year. What? We ran out of parking last year. So, I love Globe Life Field. They are wonderful to work with. But we actually had to add another concourse level last week because we are already looking at more than 550 businesses, over 30,000 job opportunities. And if past years or anything like what this year is going to be, we had nearly 30% of the jobs were $100,000 and above. So, whether or not it's energy, academics, healthcare, manufacturing, law enforcement, administration, you name it, the industry is there. They're hiring. And it is for every level. It's for entry level all the way up to the C-suite. I mean, they were hiring attorneys. They were hiring physicians. These are real jobs representing real opportunities for North Texans. And how we got that was by listening to people and creating it and understanding the fact that, again, not all of our job is what we do in DC. It's finding a way to almost get back that magic as a mayor where you're able to actually affect somebody's life that day and really pushing to find opportunities. So we stay very hungry to try new things. So if anybody in your audience has, an opportunity that they think that we should be taking advantage of, I mean, do it. We have this family fly-in that we want kids to understand, respect, honor, know, their history. And so we have a family fly-in. Last year, we had over 360 families that came into DC, and we arranged, we gave them a cafeteria options of what they could pick, and we personalized it for every single family. We had the ambassadors work with us, set up things for the kids at the embassies. They went and had tours of the White House. I did a Capitol tour for them at night. They got to go in our Ways and Means hearing room. And I'll tell you, it was the coolest thing. There was a mom whose son was there the first night and asked a ton of questions. And she was a little standoffish. I will notice. But on the last day that we were there, she pulled me aside. She was almost in tears. And she said, when I called your office to sign up for this, I didn't tell you all I was a Democrat because I was so afraid that you would treat my son differently or you wouldn't find space for us. She said, but after working with your staff and after working with you and seeing how you interacted with my son and this wonderful opportunity, she's like, she really appreciated that. So we had a great staff. She really appreciated the work that we put into it. And she's like, I'll vote for you. But that's not the reason why we do it.
Wow.
But the fact is that treating people like treating people like treating people and not like you're a politician or it's part of a party, I think is just so substantial. And we sincerely want to help. And I think when you want to do that, when you really enjoy it and you hire people that enjoy doing that, and that's their mission, you can be really successful.
Absolutely. And I don't know if it sounds sexist, but I don't know if it's because you're a woman and you have an intuitive nature about you that I it's hard to come across with a lot of politicians, but you care. And people can sniff out a phony, as you know, 1,000 feet away. You are not that. You are sincere. You care about your constituents, and it shows. I mean, you have such a diverse constituent base as well.
Yeah.
I mean, moving from kind of the Highland Park, University Park, all the way out to the Capel area. I mean, it's so diverse. And then it covers
all the way
DFW
out to,
Airport.
Like, Haslett area.
Yes. I mean, that
Hearst, Euless, Bedford, Colleyville, Southlake, Westlake,
Yes.
Fort Worth, Capel. I'm going to miss this, a city in there somewhere in between. But I mean, you're absolutely right. We have 750,000 people.
Yep.
And the diversities aren't just, ethnically. They are financially.
That's right.
Religiously.
Yep.
Geographically.
Yep.
And I think, culturally, we have a massive district. And when
Absolutely.
I was a mayor, we had the most
Yes.
diverse zip code in the country.
That's right.
But what I've always focused on is not on the things that make us different, but it's really on the things that we all want. So when I was mayor, you asked one of the lessons that I learned was providing the basic things that a government should do and doing it well. Looking at infrastructure, looking at jobs and how we can encourage those
right.
jobs creations, working with our school board to make sure that, our kids are getting the best education possible, and working on issues with cost.
And many of your districts have some of the best schools.
They do.
Yeah, without question. How are you finding unemployment, specifically within your district, to be affected these days due to artificial intelligence demand and increase within the workforce in general?
And I don't know right now if they're outlining or exactly saying, this is caused by AI, this is not. But I will tell you that we are moving and shaking in DFW, and there are a lot of companies that are hiring. Obviously,
That's right.
And so I think it's not focused so much on the employment as connecting people. There are jobs available. You may not want that specific job, but there are definitely jobs available. On the AI front, there's something that we all have to understand. You can't stop the technology.
That's right.
It is coming.
It's here.
It is here.
Yep.
But just like other massive technological advancements, it didn't decrease the number of jobs. It actually increased the number of jobs,
right.
but it did change them.
That's right.
You don't have steno pools anymore of people typing. You don't have people who are now connecting phone lines. I mean, even long distance carriers have had to change their business model.
That's right.
And I think, with AI, it's going to be very similar.
Agree.
A number of opportunities are going to come out of this technology, but you have to be comfortable with it. You have to be familiar with
That's
it.
right.
When we started personally, I still come from a time, God, this is hard to admit, but personal computers were not everywhere at that time. Laptops, I remember going to college, I was one of the only people with a laptop, and this thing was massive. It's nothing that you could really, they said it was portable, not really. And I remember those times, but we have succeeded, we have pushed forward, and it's really given us an infinite possibility of future jobs. So I would say to all those kids right now, make sure you're doing what you're passionate about. Find an interest, but also recognize the fact that it's not just about the degree or your skill level.
Correct.
It is your ability to be able to have relationships.
That's right.
So much we just get lost on the phone, and it's like these letters instead of words that we're putting down on code, and we stop looking people in the eye when we talk to them. We it's all about kind of a transactional relationship, and so I think the best advice I try to give this to my kids is recognize the fact that relationships matter. How you treat people matters. Being respectful and realizing you want to have a relationship with somebody before, or maybe you don't ever, need to use it, but relationships are good, they're valuable, and they probably are the most valuable part of any kind of skill is your network.
That's exactly right. And so that the time that people spend at this North Texas job fair is doing exactly that. It's connecting people. When does it start? When does it end? And if people want to learn more about it, where can they go for that information?
They need to hurry up and register. It is ntxjobs.com. So North Texas, myntxjobs.com. Go and you can see the host of employers that are going to be there. And we're still signing up employers.
When's the last day to register?
You can keep going on registering.
Okay.
But for registering as a business is coming up. I think we may actually be shutting it off this week.
This week.
Well, we
Okay.
are already at maximum capacity. Like I said, we've had to hire, but that never stops us from trying to find spaces for employers. But the job fair itself is going to be on Thursday. It's August 6th. It is only from 11 to 3.
Wow.
And it is at Globe Life Field. But from 11 to 3, I would get there early, bring your sneakers, or at least comfortable walking shoes, bring plenty of resumes, make sure you have your phones that you can, click, because a lot of the businesses now are doing, they have the QR codes and they want to connect. And I walk that floor for the entire 4 hours. We're there and I'm talking to employers, I'm talking to people who are getting hired, and there's just so much excitement there. And people are hiring right there on the spot. People are scheduling interviews right there on the spot. And when I talk to the employers, there was one employer we talked to that hired 14 people, by the time I saw them, which was just a couple hours into the fair. So, that is actually happening.
It's amazing.
So people are being connected. They're getting interviews, and they're also getting to see what's out there.
That's right.
So, this is a win-win. We pay for all of it. And this is such a passionate project when we started. We don't do it just on our own. What we do is we connect with everybody.
Yes.
All of the businesses who have reached out saying that they were trying to hire somebody, we're like, okay, you got to participate.
Yes.
And then all the elected officials, I think already this year, we've got more than 90 elected officials who I think are scheduled to be there during this time.
It's great.
We want it to be completely nonpartisan. Getting a job,
of course,
hiring people should not be a partisan.
Nonpartisan, exactly. These are things that everyone can rally around. Everyone.
Well, I used to think that, but
really,
I get a little jaded in my old age. But you would think that, and this is why we do it. Because literally, when you can change somebody's life,
of course,
it is a worthwhile thing to pursue, and this is why my office and I do these jobs. And the job creators are also really grateful because they have an opportunity to be able to invest in this community and be able to grow in this community, but they can't do it if they don't have the workforce. So again, it's August 6th, Thursday, from 11 to 3 over at Globe Life Field.
Beautiful. I'm going to toe dip over into something a little bit more partisan because I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up. Last night, Trump addressed the country. It wasn't displayed on, I think, ABC, NBC, a few of these large media networks. But the message was loud and clear, right? I mean, he declassified documents alleging that China had obtained, 220 million U.S. voter files. I mean, that's insane. What were your first thoughts when you heard his words?
I'd love to be able to say I was surprised. But I mean, we have been talking about this for years. And as much as they sit there and they attack the man and they say, oh, these are crazy conspiracy theories over and over and over again, he's able to prove he was right. And the scary thing about that I found was immediately after his address, the CYA of all of these different networks, of all of these different my Democrat colleagues in the in Congress already had like statements that came out. Now, you hadn't read any of the documents, you didn't know what he was referring to, but you already criticized. Like, why don't you at least be educated before you criticize? Look at it. But it's amazing when you look at CNN, when you look at New York Times, and when you look at these quotes, what they don't do is actually say those facts, those figures are wrong. They are admitting that China did take 220 million tax filers, the $22 million or the 22 million files that they have on healthcare files. All of these things are being put together, and I want people to think. Literally, because we were just talking about AI, how much information is available about you?
That's right.
Whether or not it's where you have a grocery store and you sign up for their their number every week that you put in. They have when you go, where you go, everywhere. What you buy, your healthcare stuff. When that data is breached and they actually have access to that, they know again your whole healthcare records and all the information you put in that. You think about your business records, your banking records. Your credit card records that have been compromised, and now your voting records on top of it.
That's right.
They can build literally entire models knowing everything about you and have the opportunity to steal. And for people who say, "Oh, that never happens," that hasn't happened. First of all, I think the number is 400,000 right now. That they know of people who have died that are still on the voter rolls,
still voting.
How many hundreds of thousands of people do we know that should never have had the opportunity to vote that all of a sudden voted? And just in our district, just across the way in Carrollton, when I ran in 2020, there was a candidate running for mayor who was found guilty of putting, I think it was mail ballots for over 100 different names for illegal votes.
What?
Found guilty. That was in our district. So when people say, "Oh, it never happens. This is fake news," it absolutely does.
Of course
if
it
you
does.
haven't figured it out, you're not doing your job.
Yep.
And CNN was saying, "Well, we've always known this, and we just should try better." Acknowledge it. Report on it.
That's right.
We don't want to give a false sense of security. There's a reason why this president, this administration, this Congress is pushing so hard to get the Save America Act passed.
Yep.
Because we know that voter identification, we know that mail-in ballots.
It's critical.
It is absolutely critical. It is absolutely critical.
Yes.
And so, for the 80% of the people who are supportive of wanting to trust but verify, just when you go to buy a beer, you have to show an ID. If you go to get on a plane, you have to show an ID. And I'm sorry, but my legal name is Elizabeth, but I go by Beth. If my ID, if I don't buy my ticket, my airline ticket under Elizabeth, they won't let me on the plane.
That's right.
So for all these people who are acting as if this is a foreign concept that we have to show an ID, it's ridiculous.
Yep.
People do it all the time, every day. Do you remember during COVID?
Of course.
When Deep Blue cities
Of
made you have
course.
to show your
vaccination records
to get into a restaurant?
Yes.
And yet all of these people are now
Yes.
saying, "Oh, this is a horrible hurdle that people are having." No, it's not.
Yep.
Trust but verify. We should only be having American folks who can legally vote voting.
Absolutely.
And to think that you have a foreign entity like, foreign nation like China that is trying so hard at such a massive number to really influence, own, and change our elections. I think every single American, every single news outlet should take this seriously and do what we can to prevent it.
Without question. I saw a video last night where Hillary Clinton had stated Russia's one of the most, I guess, competent opponents, but and they seem to be funding Republicans. I asked for China to step in and to help Democrats. I'm not sure if you've seen it. I saved it.
Oh, I saw it.
Okay.
I saw it.
The only other adversary of ours who's anywhere near as good as the Russians is China. So why should Russia have all the fun? And since Russia is clearly backing Republicans, why don't we ask China to back us?
I hereby tonight ask China.
That's right. And not only that, China, if you're listening, why don't you get Trump's tax returns? I'm sure our media would richly reward you.
I thought to myself, is this real? Is this
Maybe we
real?
should invite China to come help Democrats.
Yes. And she made that open request, and I thought to myself,
Was it just
well,
you?
good.
You saw it, but the first thing that you went to talking about AI, I was like, "Oh, this has got to be a fake."
Oh, yes.
It wasn't.
And
it was
wasn't.
authentic.
Yes,
yeah,
it was
authentic.
authentic. And so, okay, there's a lot that has happened in terms of the compromise of our elections, right? So we have China infiltrating our election system, assuming that everything that has been alleged is accurate, right? And a lot of the documents that I saw last night do pass the tests that I've placed them through. Okay, there's that. But the Secret Service and the deep state people who were aware of this crime kept it, concealed it, did not advance this information up the chain. Which is worse? I mean, they're both horrific, but how is this orchestrated, and which is worse in your opinion? And how can we guard against it?
Secret Service had, but DOJ definitely, and
Sure.
members of the Intel Committee. The
I think he
Intel
said spy
community.
agencies were Trump's exact words, right?
Members of the Intel community have definitely been protecting certain individuals in the Democrat Party for decades.
And you think it's just in the Democrat Party?
I'm on
Majority.
Ways and Means, and we have had a number of different hearings. We have had access to depositions. We've had access to a lot of documents that can show a history of the intel community protecting certain politicians and their families.
Where do those
That's-
live?
A lot of those have been released.
Oh, none of them.
No,
A
a
lot
lot
of them.
of
Okay.
those. A lot of those have been released. When you-
Whitehouse.gov or any. Okay.
a lot of those have been released. But,
Okay.
but the fact is that this, when we talk about the deep state, again, some people will go, oh, it's just a crazy conspiracy theory. No, it's not. Read the depositions.
That's right.
When they say we wanted to go after, we wanted to question, we should have brought in, these witnesses and asked them these questions, and they were prevented from doing so up the chain of command. This is what this administration is going after. It has been allowed to continue for entirely too long. We have seen the weaponization of our judicial system, of our intel community. And if people don't think that that is just a complete travesty, I don't care what party you are in, what your political ideology is. You should be concerned that a government has that much control over your life and at any point in time can absolutely take somebody who is innocent or somebody who is guilty and affect that outcome. It should not happen. This was our whole country was created on the fabric that would never happen.
That's right.
And so I think what you're seeing is these investigations are underway. The biggest fear is that while they're happening, you're going to see a change in power at the top. That will, again, what we saw during the Biden administration is all of a sudden all of these things that were being uncovered are squashed and pushed down. So November is going to be really important.
Of course.
Obviously, November 2028 is going to be exceptionally important. This administration, when you look at what happened in 2020, we just met with Brooke Rollins, Secretary Rollins.
Yes. She's
this
wonderful.
week. The Texas delegation.
Oh, I
had
saw that. I saw that in
we had an
one of your
opportunity.
social or newsletter posts, something.
We had an opportunity to meet with her and talk to her about some of this stuff. And she said, in 2023, we had a whole idea of what we were going to do. We were going to be able to achieve where we had to go, how we were going to continue. Then what happened in 2024, when they did not actually get to take the reins, that was a shock. But what they did the 4 years after that was put together a team, put together a strategy, and you're seeing that being executed now. I think it made that entire administration very strong, very focused, and very strategic. And to think that could all be unraveled, if another administration who is seeking to protect their own, and you are seeing people elected that really hate our country,
That's right.
leading it.
That's right.
And I've seen it on the floor of the House. I can give you example after example of people who have been elected who really hate the very fabric of our nation. Of
course.
And they just want to work to unravel it.
Of course.
People, yes, we have China, that is a fear. We've got North Korea, you've got Iran. There are so many different foreign entities that wish to do us harm, but the biggest danger we face is from within.
Yep. That's exactly right. Because what is within is working in coordination with a lot of these other countries. Should Americans expect for congressional leaders such as yourself to do some type of independent review or audit of these documents that were just released?
I mean, each office is looking at them. I can tell you that. I mean, we've already, just in the last 20 hours, we've already, since they've been released, we've already been looking at what the documents say and represent. And again, the House has done its job. We have passed the Save America Act now 3 times in Senate over the Senate.
That's right.
Where it is languishing. We are trying to do everything we can. And again, this is something that the majority, nearly 80%, if you listen to the polls, that they want. Again, it's showing and proving that you are legally able to vote. Before you can actually vote. I don't think that this is a shocking pronouncement. And why we can't seem to get the vote out of the Senate is very disheartening to a number of us in the House. It's disheartening, I think, to citizens all across the
Of
country.
course.
But this is something that we're going to continue to fight with. And I want to take, my hat off to the state of Texas again. The other states can learn from what we do, but they have very strong election integrity law that they have passed as a result. I mean, they're scrubbing their voter list. They're getting people off who have died, who have moved. They're looking at folks who were illegally in our country, but granted, a driver's license perhaps from another state, California, that, want to come here and be able to vote. And they are putting an end to it. And we need the other states to step up and do that. We're working at getting the Save America package put into a reconciliation package, the Save America Act put into a reconciliation package. We're going to figure out how to do that. But again, the fact that you would even have to put it into a reconciliation package, meaning that you only have to have 50 plus 1 versus 60 votes, it's crazy. That you would figure that this would be one of those hard to take votes that Democrats would not want to vote no on, because they wouldn't want to say, we don't care if you're a citizen or not. Come on, everybody vote. But you've seen, California and others that they have changed their entire statewide laws to allow exactly that.
Yes.
So,
and whenever I see these Senate hearings and I very much treat and I look at people in the Democratic Party as humans, and I think not people to fight all the time. I mean, I try to really promote peace and collaboration. But when I see members of the Democratic Party, the Senate, not show up to these hearings surrounding taxpayer fraud, and I saw Nick Shirley's tweet about that, and I thought, why would they not show if their constituents' taxpayer money is being fraudulently spent?
Yeah.
Why would they not show? Do you have any idea why they're not showing? I mean,
because they're not going to have their opportunity on camera. They'll show up for their 5 minutes to get their opportunity on camera for a potentially viral moment.
it's maddening.
But they're not showing up where it matters. And it is very infuriating. I mean, you talk about the cost of illegal immigration. One, to our voting systems is one thing. Two, crime. I was talking to you when I just walked in here. I just got a text from Robert Moore, who is Ava Moore's dad.
Yes.
Ava Moore was a wonderful athlete. She was a patriot. She had just gotten into the Air Force Academy, and she got mowed down by an illegal alien female who was on the lake on Grapevine, and left her for dead.
Yep.
And she died.
Yep.
And then tried to take off and hit cars on her way out. Just heard from her dad. There's penalties. There are actual victims for these open border policies under the Biden administration. And again, you have seen this administration take this seriously. We've had over 3.5 million people who have either self-deported or who have been deported. And there's a lot of ramifications for that. But, decreases in crime is one.
Yep.
Decreases in the loss of life.
Yep.
Needlessly is one, but then you start looking at the fraud, and some estimates we've seen is $500 billion.
That's right.
A year.
That's right.
In fraudulent taxpayer
that's
monies
conservative as
that
well.
are going to fund some type of illegal immigrant activities in our own country.
That's right.
And then, you start looking at, on top of that, these NGOs that are encouraging this, that are getting paid, buku taxpayer dollars on top of that. And then there's also other ramifications, such as rental rates and housing prices. Nearly the 20 million people who came into our country illegally during the Biden administration increased housing costs by 20%. I'm sorry, 30% for housing costs, 20% for apartments. So when we looked at the massive amounts of increases in inflation and things that people are actually paying for, everybody's paying for, housing went up 30%, apartment costs went up 20%. So working on these deportations and making sure that our borders are secure is helping a lot of things all the way down the line.
Can you elaborate on that, the affordability aspect that people don't often tie together, which is critical for people to understand? Would you elaborate on it?
Look at, I don't know how many of you actually saw some of the reports, but what they were doing in New York, they were setting people up in hotels
Nice hotels.
Nice hotels.
That's right.
Paying market dollars.
That's right.
And giving them food, which apparently they didn't like. You know, they throw the sandwiches away, and they were also giving them cards with cash on it to go spend. And what was happening was those market rates, because the landlord knew, or the hotel chain knew that the government was paying for it, kept creeping up. And as a result, the market dollars kept going up. It's what people were paying for rent kept going up. Well, now that you're getting folks, and we already have had somewhat of a housing shortage, you know, we are trying to do our best, but in the bluest of cities is where housing is the most expensive.
That's right.
That's because of their own regulations. They make it impossible for people to be able to live in a means in which is affordable. That is those massive blue cities that are doing that to their own constituents. But when we kick people out who should never have been here, all of a sudden those units are available again. And the rates slowly start to come down. But that's been an issue with affordability, and we're working on it. When we think about how many billions of dollars were just sent to people who didn't deserve them, who never paid a tax, dollar here in their life. And then you look at that Somalia fraud in Minnesota. Those dollars are being sent out of the country.
That's right.
But they were being collected, and they were being, frauded by illegal immigrants in the country. This is happening all across our nation, and this administration is getting down to it. I am working with this administration to get down to it, whether or not it's on the Small Business Committee, whether or not we're working on ways and means of being able to identify it. But we have seen this fraud being perpetuated, and the cost of insecure borders, open borders, is astronomical, and I think it is beyond what most people could ever even imagine.
Yes, I'm in full agreement. How concerned are you with countries like, let's say, Iran, and the influence on domestic soil by way of religious influence on our United States soil?
It is growing, and it's more prevalent. I don't think a lot of folks who haven't had to live, I still remember in the 70s, the Iran, the Middle East hostage crisis and the terrorist activities there. I saw it, and I think we've gotten to a point now where we have had it really, we're used to security, and we don't know what it's like to have it challenged. Iran is not our friend. It has been a supporter. It has been a producer of terrorist activities across our planet. And as a result, they need to be stopped. But what we have seen here in our schools, really in our schools, but even in our local governments, is this support for this terrorist activity, making it seem as if, one, it's hip and it's cool, but and two, as if, again, it's a conspiracy theory that Iran and Hamas have murdered Americans everywhere. They have had terrorist outbreaks, and we need to put a stop to that, especially where it affects our citizens in our country. But getting a hold of what's happening in our universities and in our schools is very important. You mentioned at the top of this interview that I had gone to Cornell, and I've been very involved in Cornell in the last couple of years, because what we were seeing was they had a professor the day after October 7th in Israel, where you had a history professor at Cornell that got out and said how exhilarated he was that the oppressed were now fighting against their oppressors, and saying how great, condoning this type of violence.
This was across
and this kind
most
of behavior.
the Ivies, though.
And I was really shocked that this guy was allowed to continue teaching our youth. But this was happening, as you mentioned, university everywhere. And we're paying for this. So we are working on legislation that, if you, first of all, if you are a student who is here on a visa, you are granted access to our country. You're not owned it.
That's right.
You are granted access. And if you are here and you are supporting terrorist activity, if you are committing acts of violence, or you are not obeying our laws, you need to be deported. You can no longer stay here as a student. But we're also looking at activities of in foreign dollars that are coming in, or even domestic dollars that are coming in to fund foreign terrorist activities, that we uncover those and we put a stop to that. But really, a lot of the universities have been hotbeds for teaching our youth to hate our country, to hate our way of life. And again, they're able to do that because we live in such a prosperous nation.
That's right.
In such a nation that we have,
so comfortable.
We have oceans that are between us and some of the most violent activity, terrorist activity. But it is not unheard of to see this happening in the near future here.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
you opened our borders. We saw people flooding in from places like Iran, like Afghanistan, under an administration that didn't take that seriously, didn't follow them, didn't find out who they were, why they were here. And so I always say this: it's not if, but when we're going to see that. And I'm just so thankful that we're almost to the end of the FIFA World Cup.
Yes.
I know that the FBI, I know our CIA, our local law enforcement, our state law enforcement are working together, to prevent any kind of terrorist events happening there. But I was at the UFC event at the White House.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Earlier this summer. And it doesn't take a whole lot, just one drone to come in, to have mass amounts of casualties. And so I don't think at any point in time we can take that for granted. And when we start taking it for granted, is really we're going to see the demise of human life and really our culture.
I wanted to ask something pertaining to that. How can we all do better about reaching across the aisle to people who call persons like myself or yourself conspiracy theorists and propagators? What can you leave with to encourage fostering more dialogue that promotes an American way of life, truth, liberty, and justice, and not conflate it with this divisive space within the divisive language that we're constantly left with?
One, be organized with your thoughts. Two, be prepared with facts and data.
Yep.
Three, don't be a happy warrior. Don't be a hateful warrior.
Yep.
I think nothing is more off-putting than listening to somebody who is just screaming and yelling, because you tend to tune them out.
Yep.
But somebody who is reasonable, who has facts and can back it up with receipts,
Yep.
is going to be listened to. Again, concentrate on the relationships.
Yes.
I did when I was mayor. I did not have an R or a D next to my name.
Good for you.
As soon as I put an R next to my name and I ran for Congress, I really found out who some of my friends were,
Yes.
and some who really weren't.
Yes, I'm
and
sure.
that was heartbreaking. These were relationships that I'd had for decades, and all of a
Yes.
sudden they found out.
Yeah. Yes.
I never hid it.
Yeah.
That I was a Republican,
Yeah.
and that really disappointed them. But continue to have a voice.
Yep.
Refuse to be shut down because it's not popular amongst the group of friends. Because what I found was, you may think that it's unpopular. You may think you're the only person who thinks that.
Yeah.
But as soon as you start talking, people will
right.
come up to you, even if they don't have the bravery or the voice to do it in the moment.
Yes.
So many people will come up to you afterward and say, "Thank you for bringing that up. I really appreciate it. I wanted to say something, but I was afraid what would happen." We all have to be that light in the darkness.
That's
we
right.
all have to be that voice of reason. And I think the more of us who understand, who have read our history, who know what's possible in the future,
That's right.
and talk about it, live it, and fight for it,
Yep.
that's what we can all do. And not in a hateful manner, but call out, injustice when you see it.
Yep.
Make it about the policy. Make it about the issue. Don't make it about the person.
Yes.
Don't make it about the party. And I think, we can all come together. I think, whether or not it's working on healthcare, election integrity, infrastructure, AI, the
Yes.
future of economic development, none of those things should be partisan.
Yep.
They've all turned into partisan issues.
Exactly.
But we still need to keep talking about them.
That's
and
right.
not be shut down because we're afraid somebody's not going to find us popular.
Yep, I agree with you. Thank you for leading by example.
Thank you.
And for being a voice that champions truth and transparency for your constituents and North Texans. You are a pleasure, and you're a blessing to have here. Thank you.
You've been great, and I love what you do, and I love all the interviews that you have.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
This is such a much better format than the 4 minutes of trying to spew out, data.
I know
This
it.
is
I know
so
it.
much more relaxing.
Well, I want to have you back, please, whenever we
you got
both
it.
have more time. I'm sorry
it.
I was 1 or 2 minutes late. I'm sad that I didn't have more time with you.
Things happen, and we'll definitely have another
They
chance.
do. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.